Okay, yeah, I know. For real this time. So, let's talk about Stannis. He is quite possibly the most controversial character on all of Game of Thrones. You either love him or you hate him. There's a lot of characters that people hate, like the Boltons. There's a lot of characters that everybody loves, like Daenerys and Tyrion. But Stannis is on both sides of the spectrum. You have people who literally masturbate to pictures of him. Not me. And you have people who literally wish him death. Pray that the show writers will kill him, that George will kill him. He's a monster. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to feel. Of course, I have my own opinions. Everyone has their own opinions, but what I really want to talk about is Stannis' character. Because I feel like there's a big misunderstanding with his character. And that's where a majority of the hate I see comes from him. This isn't a video that I'm making to make people like Stannis, but I feel like if you have an understanding of who he is as a person and who he is as a character, then you'll maybe not like him, but you'll have a deeper understanding, and the world can only be better when you understand things more. So let's start at the obvious point. Stannis' childhood, where he was born as the second son of Stannis Baratheon. He's the younger brother of Robert Baratheon, and they're pretty well off, right? They're the Lords Paramount of the Stormlands, one of the 7 most powerful people in the kingdom. But that doesn't mean Stannis had a good life. In fact, he had a pretty shit life when you think about it. So at a young age, I don't care enough to look up the age, it was either 10 or younger. Stannis is on the top of Storm's End, looking out across Shipbreaker Bay, waiting for his parents to come home on a ship. And he sees their ship on the horizon, and the ship comes into the bay, and just then a huge gust of wind comes and smashes the ship against the rocks of the bay, and Stannis watches his parents drown to death in front of him. Yeah. So that's how Stannis' childhood went in a nutshell. After that, when Stannis was emotionally distressed, he had lost faith in the 7 gods, he is just terribly depressed. He loved his family. Just as he's going through this horrible emotional turmoil, Robert, his older brother, leaves. Goes to the Vale to go be best buddies with Ned Stark and learn how to be a lord. And that leaves Stannis there alone, an orphan, with, I think at the time, a 2-year-old little brother Renly to take care of. And so ostensibly, for the next, 10 years or so, Stannis is the Lord Paramount of the Stormlands, as a child. This is a rough going for him, right? And let me back up a bit. Let me show you a little bit another story. So, Robert leaves Stannis at a time when he needs him most, and it's not entirely Robert's fault. But let's back up a little bit to examine the relationship. There was a time younger when Stannis was out in the woods, and he found a bird, a falcon, that was injured. It had a broken wing. Stannis takes it inside, and he nurses it back to health. After a long time, he takes care of it, he feeds it. He names her Proudwing, and he is proud as hell as her. He takes her out when the family goes falconing or whatever, whatever privileged lords do with their birds. And Robert's bird was always better. It was always stronger. And Robert would mercilessly make fun of him for it. Look at your gimp bird who can't fly straight. It's just terrible. He loves this bird. But eventually, he's just so shamed. He's been humiliated in front of people that he cares about and respects so often that he eventually abandons Proudwing. And so that's just a little glimpse into his relationship with his big brother Robert. So Robert leaves, right? Robert goes to the Vale to live with Jon Arryn and Ned Stark and by his own admission, spend days as a young boy fucking boars and eating whores, leaving Stannis alone. So this goes on for a while, right? And then eventually, Robert falls in love with Lyanna Stark, Ned's sister, right? Falls in love with Ned's sister, and Ned's sister gets kidnapped by the Targaryens. And Robert raises his flag in rebellion. He says, no, I'm going to go back and get my girl. And of course he calls Stannis to raise the armies of the Stormlands and, join the war. And Stannis doesn't have to do this, right? Robert's raising his flag in rebellion to the king. This is treason. This is huge. But Stannis knows that before the duty to the realm, he has the duty to his older brother. His older brother, despite not being in Storm's End, despite abandoning him years ago, is still his lord, and his word is law. So Stannis does his duty. He doesn't do a lot of fighting in the war, but what he does do is he holds Storm's End. Early in the war, Storm's End is surrounded by Tyrell forces, Mace Tyrell specifically. The castle is immediately besieged. All supplies are cut off. All roads are cut off. The port is blockaded. Things are rough, but Stannis holds the castle. Stannis holds the castle for over a year, and supplies run out before the war is over. And that's a big deal. People start starving, and they start starving bad. After all the food is gone, every horse in the castle is slaughtered and eaten. After that, every cat. After that, every dog. And people are in rough shape. The last dogs run out, and then they start eating rats. And then the rats run out. And this is everyone, by the way. This isn't just the common folk. Stannis is starving too. Stannis isn't hoarding any food for himself. So the rats are gone. And he and his wife are eating the leather of shoes. Stannis is eating shoes rather than surrender because he had orders from his brother who was his lord. Eventually, after King's Landing is sacked, Ned Stark rides south, breaks the siege, saves Stannis, and Robert gives all the credit for saving Storm's End to Ned Stark. Gives Stannis no credit whatsoever. Does not thank him, does not do anything. Ned Stark's the savior of Storm's End. And on top of this, Robert then says, listen, the last Targaryens alive, Daenerys and Viserys, they're on Dragonstone. You need to go to Dragonstone and kill them. Or not kill them, he wants them to capture. You need to go to Dragonstone and capture them. The problem with this is, Dragonstone is an impenetrable fortress, one of the oldest standing fortresses in Westeros. It's an island, very secure, and Stannis doesn't have a fleet. Doesn't have a single ship. It was all destroyed by the Tyrells. He has no way to get to Dragonstone to do his brother's bidding. So what does Stannis do? Builds a new fleet. Does it as quickly as he possibly can. Takes this fleet, sails for Dragonstone. And he goes. And he gets there literally a day after they escape. And this drives Robert insane. He is furious with Stannis for not being able to do such a simple task. How could you not capture 2 children? You failure. You idiot. So then, the war's over. The land is at peace, ostensibly. New king, the Baratheons sit on the Iron Throne. And it comes time to dole out who gets what piece of territory, now that there are countless dead lords everywhere. And Robert looks at the Iron Throne, looks at Storm's End, the ancestral home of the Baratheons, which by all rights should go to Stannis, and he gives Storm's End to Renly, the 9-year-old. Are you starting to see a pattern here? Stannis has been nothing but loyal, nothing but obedient, nothing but faithful, and he gets fucked over every time. But here's the key. Here's the important bit. Stannis doesn't complain. Stannis doesn't rebel. Stannis doesn't argue. Stannis doesn't fight. Because his brother's word is law. His brother is the king now. His brother is his lord. And by all rights, he obeys his brother. He does what is right. That's Stannis' character. And even let me tell you something else. There's a story of Stannis is getting married, right? Stannis is getting married off to a Florent to secure an alliance with the Reach, because, relations are rocky after the whole Storm's End thing. So Stannis is getting married to Selyse Florent. who, by all accounts, an ugly woman. She's not very attractive. She has a mustache. But Stannis does it. Stannis marries this woman. And on Stannis' wedding day, as he is going to his wedding bed to consummate the marriage, when he gets there, he sees Robert in bed with a tavern whore. So this is the character we're dealing with. We're dealing with Stannis Baratheon, a man who cannot for the life of him catch a break. And then, jump forward a few years, Robert Baratheon dies. Robert Baratheon dies while drunk and hunting. How else could the man go out? But not only this, Stannis discovers that Robert's children are illegitimate, which makes Stannis the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. Stannis, by all rights, by every law of gods and men, Stannis is the king of Westeros. Things are finally going his way. And then what happens? The only man alive who believes him, Ned Stark, is executed within a week. Robert's illegitimate child proclaims himself king, names Stannis a traitor. Ned Stark's son, the son of a man so honorable, so loyal, declares himself king of the North. Proclaims himself king of just half of Westeros. He just does that. And when Stannis turns to his own flesh and blood, to his family, to Renly, his younger brother, lord of the castle that he himself should be the lord over, brother that he ostensibly raised, declares himself king. Now, I'm just going on and on here. This is a really long recording. But I just hope that after listening to this, you can go back and look at Stannis' actions through the series, and you can now understand the man better. This is not an evil man. This is not, some insane, power-hungry child murderer. This is a man who has waited his whole life for his turn. His turn at the table. His turn for happiness. His turn for something, anything to go his way. And it's all taken away from him. This is a man who would rather eat shoe leather than disappoint his asshole brother. This is a man so devoted to duty and honor that it's almost a detriment. This is a man who deserves better in a world that doesn't care. Thanks for listening.